we are back with another HEF podcast. That is the podcast of the Home Education Foundation. The Home Education Foundation. Hello, Michelle Brill. The Home Education Foundation is an organization that was founded by the beloved Brenda Dickinson and her husband Craig back in the early 1990s, just after securing a victory for home education families in Florida, establishing that home education was the right of every parent to teach their own children the way that they saw fit, set their own values and standards, and not have to send them to public school, that they could in fact attend, not having to hide in a private school, but they could attend the education to their child in their own home. And that is such a beautiful thing, and we're so thankful for Brenda and all of the founding mothers in Florida who were there at the beginning of the home education law in 1985 in Florida. We're also thankful to all the parents of today, the parents in the free state of Florida, for supporting the work that we do at the Home Education Foundation and with HEF Connect, our nonprofit. And we're so thankful for the support that you give to us. If you're unaware, we are only funded through support. We don't sell any products or anything of that nature or services. And when parents reach out to us for help, we say yes. And there is no strings or monetary commitments attached to any of that. We simply are funded based off of the donations and support of the families in the free state of Florida. So we want to say thank you to you. And thank you to our top sponsors, Arete, FPEA, and Fisher Precious Metals, and TBHC Group for coming in alongside of us to support the very important work that we do. And we've talked a bit about our founding mothers, but today we're going to talk about our country's founding fathers. And I have some special guests with us today. We have Bill Maddox from the James Madison Institute, and we have none other than the very Benjamin Franklin to join us today. Good day to you, sir.
Good day to you.
Yes.
Bill, it's good to see you again as well.
Likewise.
I'm so glad you were able to make it. This is it's going to be a wonderful podcast. Bill, tell us a little bit about the James Madison Institute. Before we talk about the project, I've got a spiel that I'll jump into for that, but tell us a little bit about the James Madison Institute and your role there before we get started.
Yeah, so as you know, this is the 250th anniversary year of the Declaration of Independence. Well, back in 1987, which was then the 200th anniversary of the U.S. Constitution, a former president of Florida State University, Stan Marshall, decided at the ripe young age of 65 that he would like to start a think tank here in Florida that would be focused primarily on economic issues surrounding kind of the future of Florida. But naturally, because of his own, background in education, one of the issues that he particularly wanted to pay attention to was K-12 and then higher ed as well. So JMI was started in 1987 and has been around ever since. We, like I say, focus primarily on economic issues, but education has long been a kind of priority among those. But what's interesting, and this kind of leads into kind of how we got connected with our friend here, Dr. Franklin, because of our name. So, James Madison, of course, had a big role in the Constitution, both in its drafting, but then in making the case for it through the Federalist Papers, and then in amending it. The first 10 amendments were amendments that he introduced to the U.S. House of Representatives, the Bill of Rights. So Madison's all over the Constitution. And so it made sense, given that JMI was started in 1987, the 200th anniversary of the Constitution, it made sense for our organization to be named after Madison because our founder, Stan Marshall, was a big fan of James Madison. And, the 10th Amendment of those 10 amendments that we talked about, the 10th has to do with kind of the powers of the states and the importance of the states compared to the federal government. So it kind of made sense for JMI to take on Madison's name. But here's what happened is that soon after the organization was birthed, we started getting questions and phone calls and letters from people around the state who would say things like, hey, I'm a student working on a term paper about the Federalist Papers, and I'd like to know more about what James Madison was thinking. Or I'm a teacher who's preparing a lesson on the role of Dolly Madison in the early American experience. Can you give me some resources? And so even though our work is primarily, much like yours at the Home Education Foundation, primarily focused on policymakers and opinion leaders here in Tallahassee,
right,
we found a kind of need to respond to some of these questions that we were getting, in large part because of our name, from teachers and parents and students who wanted to know more about founding principles. And so, I don't know, 15 or so years ago now, we launched a civics education project, which we have continued ever since, that's designed to provide resources to students and teachers and parents around the state. And there's and over the course of that time, then we've gotten a chance to work with people like Dr. Franklin here. But let me just say that there's no group that we enjoy more than homeschoolers, because they often have a keen interest in these topics and ideas and in this history. And so we always enjoy going to FPEA and other conventions around the state, and also providing resources throughout the year to folks who need them. So that's kind of a long answer to kind of the question of who we are and how we fit in this whole conversation.
No, it's great. And thank you for all of that additional information, because I think it really helps. A lot of people may or may not know the connection between our two organizations and what we do. And oftentimes we get confused with customer service for Step Up for Students, to be honest with you, because we get a lot of questions about the scholarships. And then people will email us and be like, hey, I need you to get in my account and do this and this. And I'm like, oh, pump the brakes. Hang on. You're talking to the wrong person that way. Because one, no, thank you. And two, I don't have access to any of that. We're not affiliated, but we build relationships with different organizations. And I'm so thankful we've built a relationship with you, Bill, and with the James Madison Institute. And I love that there's alignment. We have such wonderful conversations about the future of education and what it looks like and how it may change and all of these kinds of things that we try to help each other stay on top of. And I'm so blessed and thankful to have you guys as a resource. You help us with some of the handouts that we have when we go to different places, like the Pocket Constitutions. We'll be at FPEA again this year. And thanks to you, we'll have Pocket Constitutions to hand out. We're so thankful, for that and many, many other things that you guys do. But thank you for that kind of.
Yeah, no, the feeling's mutual. We very much appreciate the work that you guys do. So we like I said, working with homeschoolers directly and interacting with them. But then here in the Capitol, we enjoy very much working with you guys and find ourselves, like you say, very much kind of in philosophical alignment in how we see issues and how we see the future of education. And I have to say, I'll put my cards on the table. None of this is by accident. I'm a former homeschooler. All four of ours had, the opportunity to learn at home. And so I have an appreciation, not just from, as an admirer of the families that went before us or who are continuing now, but also as a former participant in the homeschooling movement.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Well, let's do this. I have something prepared, and I'll hit this, and then we'll dive into the meat of today.
Okay.
In the sweltering heat of Philadelphia in the 1776, a group of visionaries penned a document that changed the world, arguably. They didn't just claim political independence, they declared that certain truths were self-evident. They believed that liberty wasn't a gift from a king or permission from a bureaucrat, that it was an inherent part of being human. Today, we carry that torch. The Home Education Foundation, the James Madison Institute. There is a growing and noisy sentiment in our modern world that suggests our children are the property of the collective, that they belong to the state, the community, or some abstract greater good that Big Brother needs to take care of. To that we say, not on our watch. The connection between our founding fathers and home educating families is seamless. The founding fathers knew that a free republic could only survive if the people were self-reliant and self-governing, and the family unit remained the primary sovereign power. Our children do not belong to the government. They do not belong to the state. They belong to the family first. As parents, we don't just have a preference for how our children are raised. This is not some trendy wave of pro-school choice and options that can more easily cater to our preferences. No, we have a sacred duty and an unalienable right to direct the lives of our children, their education, and their upbringing. We are the first line of defense for their hearts and minds. We are the luminous guide to shed light on their path. We're the ultimate mentor to shape their resilience and their work ethic. We are the parent. And where we stand, that means something. And we make no apologies for standing in that gap. So to celebrate this heritage of freedom, we're doing something a little different today. We're putting our knowledge to the test with a trivia game centered on those revolutionary men and women who risked everything so we could live and learn in liberty. It's time to see how well we know those giants on whose shoulders we stand. So whether you're a history buff or just someone who loves a good bit of rebel trivia, you're in the right place. So, dust off those tricorn hats, Mr. Benjamin Franklin, sharpen your quills, and let's get into the spirit of freedom. The Home Education Foundation and the James Madison Institute have partnered together to create a game called the Spirit of 76, in which we put together a learning environment and host a challenge to young people to come forward in a mutual combat of the minds as they make their way through a colonial map toward the capital and a race to see who can answer the most trivia questions fastest and get them correctly. That's key. And show their prowess and their knowledge off of the founding fathers. And then we also have wonderful Benjamin Franklin, who joins us here and there. And he adds wisdom and recollections and experiences, little tidbits that aren't in the game itself, but they go right alongside of it with some fascinating knowledge and little pieces that he adds to it. And that ultimately is the project we've been trying to take around to the different conferences and conventions. And hopefully, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but hopefully we'll be able to package this once finished for parents to be able to sample or host at a co-op or something to that effect. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no. So this is a really fun project. It all coincides, of course, with the 250th anniversary of the Declaration and the celebration taking part this year. And it's similar to some games that we've played over the years with Benjamin Franklin. And you're right. Yes, it is an opportunity for students to come and to kind of test their knowledge and compete, if you will, in a quiz game. But we really approach this with a spirit of kind of fun and openness to learning more. And so that's part of the reason why Dr. Franklin plays such an important role in this, because we want it to be not just a test of how much you already know, but an opportunity for you to learn more. And so, like you said, we will, throughout the game, kind of intersperse questions to him to let us hear from him on the topic that was just introduced by the question. And so I guess one of the things I've done this a lot with Ben over the years, and I don't know that I've ever asked this question, but Dr. Franklin, of all the stories that I invite you to tell, which is the one that you would say you most enjoy? If you only had a chance to tell one story to our group of students, which one would you say is your favorite?
I would, excuse me, I would have to say that of the many that I enjoy, one that means a good bit to me because I can follow it through later years is the dialogue that we have regarding the letters of Mrs. Silence Dogood.
Yes. Yes.
With,
Yes.
with Mrs. Dogood, a 14-year-old lad full of himself, apprenticed to his brother, much older brother, disguised handwriting and made comments of the leadership and the attitudes in Boston. And when it was finally disclosed as to the author of the letters, I still feel and remember the whippings and the effects of tyranny.
The effects of tyranny. Witness the violence inherent in the system. I'm being repressed. Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
I tell you, the thing that I really love about that story, I didn't know what you would say to that.
Yeah.
And I can't say I'm altogether surprised, but because part of what I love about that story is that people who know a lot about Ben, not just a little bit, but those who know a lot are almost surely to know that he wrote under the pen name of what was it, Richard Saunders, as Poor Richard's Almanac.
Yes,
But
there were many more.
They're familiar with Poor Richard's Almanac and
Right.
knew that Franklin was involved in writing under a pseudonym there.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, even the person who's been around the block a time or two doesn't have knowledge of the Mrs. Silence Dogood situation and
Yes.
and the story behind it. So.
Yes. Yes. I think I enjoyed listening to you tell that to the young people as well when we were there in the middle of the game, and I was having a hard time not cracking up out loud while we were there. That was epic.
So I should mention that Jason's referring to the fact that we had the privilege of playing the Spirit of 76 game for the first time here in Florida back in March or February.
Yes,
I think it was February.
I think it was the end
Yeah,
of
it was
February.
late February, I think, at the Capitol. It was FPEA Day at the Capitol, and so up on the top floor overlooking the entire city. So we had a chance there as part of the program to play the quiz game, which we did with a group of, I think, 12 and under initially, and then a group 13 and up.
It was a lot of fun, and the questions that you have can go. There are some that are more advanced and difficult and challenging, and there are some that are a little lighter, so it can be played with a range of students who are interested. And I have to tell you, Bill, I'm quite ready to lose to a Benjamin Franklin today. If you have any of those questions available, I might be due for a thrashing myself of some founding fathers trivia if you have them handy.
Well, do not think of it as a loss. Just remember, knowledge and education pay the highest dividends.
Thank you. Words of wisdom from the man himself. I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Yeah. So, if you want, I can pull out some of the questions that we ask and give people a little bit of a taste of what this is about. One thing I should say that you were talking about in terms of kind of being able to adjust the game to different age groups, or really in some ways knowledge groups, because people will often ask me, what grades is this for? And I'm like, well, what kind of school are you?
Have you seen some of the college students on Miami Beach being interviewed as they ask them these questions, and they have no?
Oh, gosh, those are painful. Those are painful. But no, I mean, so often with homeschoolers, you find kids that know things that are kind of beyond their years, and so that's part of the reason for that. But no. We not only have questions that are more difficult than others, but then all of the questions are multiple choice, and so there are times when, and I'll usually kind of adjust things on the fly, which anyone can do who's kind of leading the game, depending on what you see. And so if I see that a group is really well informed, there have been times when I won't even give the options, and I'll just see if someone knows the answer without having the options. But then even there'll be times when with a group that really knows a lot, you can give more options, which makes it a little bit harder than giving only 2 or 3. And that way you can, there again, even within the questions, sometimes adjust things to age level or knowledge level or whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, give me just a second and I'll step off and I will snag some questions and then we can give folks a little bit of a taste of things.
Okay. Yeah,
so hang on just
that
1 second.
Great. Mr. Benjamin Franklin, you were telling me a story about James Madison, I believe it was, or this was told at that day. And I found it very interesting because it falls in line with what we hold dear in home education. And I thought it was very uniquely interesting. You asked the students, or maybe you were just telling them how James Madison had learned to speak French. And he had a very important role. So tell us a little bit about his role that he played and tell us how he learned French.
Okay, in actuality,
I'm sorry.
that was John
I said
Adams.
James Madison. You're right. You're right.
Yes. I never truly learned to understand and speak the French language in my years in Paris. Mr. Adams, most honest, hardworking man, studied and learned the French that he learned by reading obituaries, where with the little bit I got was just from talking with people on the street, going to conferences and dinner engagements in the evenings. But it shows the seriousness, I think, of Mr. Adams and the I won't say lighthearted, but the more down to earth method that I used, even though I did not perfect the speaking and understanding of French. But I did have a grandson with me that did learn and spoke quite
That's
well.
awesome. And I'm so glad you shared that. And thanks for correcting me on the John Adams thing. I have James Madison on the brain. But I find it so interesting.
The thing that I always love about John Adams is that a lot of times we imagine that all the founding fathers got along famously and that they were just the greatest of friends and all the rest. But one of the things that comes out when John Adams is introduced into the quiz game and is the answer for some question that we ask, I'll then turn to Ben and say, you guys were great friends, right? And he'll say
that was not the truth. The case. Mr. Adams and I worked on several different committees. Again, hardworking, honest. But at times I thought he was quite out of his head.
What I found interesting when you were sharing the story about how he learned French is we have everybody today. What kind of class do you take and what curriculum do you use for this? And we've got Google Translate. So a lot of times if you want to say something, you just pull up Google and see what Google Translate says and try to fumble your way through a conversation. And there's this idea around education that only the experts can teach it. And from them you must learn. And I think it's just true and near and dear to the home education way and heart that John Adams learned French by reading obituaries. It's just like, get your hands on whatever you can get your hands on and pour into it diligently and come out having known something you didn't know before. And I think that's fascinating. I love that. I love that story.
Well, I'll tell you something else too that I really enjoy whenever the whole question of France is raised in the conversation, because Dr. Franklin spent some time there later in life in France. But one of the stories that I did not realize is that while in France, you were inspired to do something with candles that ultimately lives on even to this day here in the United States. Tell us about that, Dr. Franklin.
Well, as I mentioned a few moments ago, that I was often at evening dinners and gatherings of the aristocracy. And one morning, early in the morning after returning to my chamber, I woke up and I saw that there was light around the shutters. So I threw open the shutter and I was amazed that the sun had already risen and provided light for the day. And it occurred to me, if everyone would go to bed, but just 1 hour earlier and get up an hour earlier, then just think of all the candles that could be saved. And the cost of those candles would have funded a brigade of Continental soldiers with full supplies. And well, it was put to me that many people would not want to get up that hour early. And my response was to have cannon placed at the heads of different roads, fire them off at the appropriate hour, and people would.
That's awesome.
And I believe at some time that plan may be put into operation. Just think of the funds that could be saved.
Yeah. So this is the thing, Jason, that I'd never realized is that Benjamin Franklin, apart from, we think of him as a statesman, certainly this time of year and with all that we're celebrating this year, we know of his role at the Declaration, at the Constitution. He was one of maybe 5 or 6 that signed both. So he was a statesman, diplomat who was over in France. We know that he, had a big role with electricity and then different inventions and stuff. But the fact that he was responsible for daylight savings time, I never realized that until we started doing.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I think it's interesting that he's focused on the efficiency of like how much money we could save on those candles. It's like the accumulation of marginal gains over time. It's something that, especially in home education, I find so powerful because with public school, and schooling systems, you're intent on trying to get a grade and take a test and hit some sort of standard. But in home education, we're focused more on mastery. And so you continue to pursue the same thing and you gain marginal accumulations over time until you have something like a little kid who has a wild mind for all of this weird trivia packed in there. And then it's like, wow, where did you come from? It's interesting to me. My wife and I were literally just talking today about the difference between our oldest daughter and our youngest son, and how when we started with her, we were really focused on, well, she should be at this level by now, and she should be on this, second grade or third grade, etc. And we've kind of over the years stepped fully away from that concept as a whole and focused on the content itself and cumulatively adding to as we go. But what's really interesting is that all of the conversations that they end up having at the learning table or the dinner table or life, my youngest son is in the middle regardless. And we recently had him tested and he was like way up. But he's reading on a high level, but he's supposed to be in kindergarten. But we've ignored all that and just allowed all of the stuff to accumulate. And he has a mind that is just crazy ahead of where my daughter was at this time. And it's because of the way the family unit is together all the time and doing things and how it just accumulates. We repeat a lot of the same things over and over and over, but it ends up accumulating. And I think that accumulation factor is so important, but it's interesting to see Benjamin Franklin was very interested in the same thing as far as saving us money and candles. That's great. And that's why we have daylight savings time. Thank you, sir.
You're quite welcome, sir.
I seem to recall, tell me if I'm wrong about this, Dr. Franklin, that you had a role in kind of helping to start some of the first libraries, in some ways for similar reasons, that you kind of looked at it and said, hey, it's inefficient for us all and difficult for us all to
Mhm.
buy our own books individually, wouldn't it make more sense if, we had
Repository.
some sort of system for sharing books so that after I was done reading mine, you could read it, and after you were done reading yours, I could read mine, read it or whatnot. Am I wrong in remembering that Dr. Franklin had a role in the first libraries?
Yes, through the junta, which was an organization of other tradesmen in and about Philadelphia. We met on a weekly basis. Books being very expensive and at times hard to procure, we decided to pool many of our books into our rented room above a tavern so that different members could share in the reading of the different books. And it was decided that we should expand this to the larger population. And in time, we formed a public library, which through a membership allowed you to look at and take home these books with the promise of returning them.
Yeah.
And I do believe that this system has spread throughout
I see the
our
flaw in the
colonies.
public library. There are no more taverns that they sit on top of.
No, but I tell you what's really neat about all of this is that when you look at the homeschool community today and the way in which people interact at a kind of grassroots level, there are a lot of parallels to, where sharing of resources, of curricula, of we've already completed, this Saxon book. Here, you take it and we'll trade you for whatever you've got. There's a lot of that has historically taken place within homeschooling circles. There's a great appreciation for thrift in the writings of Dr. Franklin and the work that he did back in the day, and within the homeschooling community. And some of that's been in some ways by necessity, but some of it is a reflection, I think, of just an ethos, an appreciation for being wise stewards of the resources and things that we've been given or that we've managed to acquire. And that was obviously a big part of Dr. Franklin's life and thinking. But it lives
sure
on
does.
very much in
In fact, we have
today.
Michelle Brill with us today in the comments, and she runs the Homeschool Expo down in West Palm Beach. And each year, I've noticed that they have like a whole area set aside for drop off and pick up sharing of things that families are done with that the other members of the community could benefit from. And I love that. I love that about going. I think that one of the challenges amidst the scholarship kind of coming is that we're leaning further into the consumerist mindset, and that community mindset kind of falls like we just want to buy it, use it, and like move on to buy the next thing. But that community mindset where we preserve it for others and pass it around. Michelle just commented, she says they call them blessings tables. And we're so thankful. I just wanted to echo that, but also I know she's here, so I wanted to give her a shout out. So you're absolutely right, and that's fundamental and key to that traditional homeschool mindset. Those founding mothers, man, they're great. They've done great.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm hearing, especially in your descriptions of the newer style of homeschooling, it is very much of the way I was raised in Boston. Coming from a large family, I was one of 13 children.
Yep.
But we learned from each other, from our parents, ideas and being taught to read. In fact, I do not remember a time that I could not read. But through passing on from one to the other, especially in a tight-knit household, does help with the, I think, with the upbringing and the education. And of course, much of what I'm hearing is very much similar to our apprenticeship style of learning trades and learning how to do things.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, Bill. We're getting on in time, so hit me Hit me with some of these trivia. I'm ready to lose to the master here.
So I'm looking for one that I just really love, and I'm not finding it at my fingertips. But maybe I'll put it in. I'll just rephrase it because I know this question well. So, Jason, what in your mind is Dr. Franklin's worst idea ever?
I think,
or maybe I should say, what in my mind? What do I?
I don't know what you consider it to be.
Ever?
He had a lot of good ones.
He was full.
But I have to say.
But this has to do with the bird used to symbolize.
That's where I was going to go.
Country.
I do think he got that one wrong. God bless him, though. The turkey.
All right, so tell us yes. What bird? Yes, he wanted.
Proposed the ever useful and delicious turkey as the national bird. And while it has many uses, I don't think it's a great symbol of power and dominion of a nation. So I think,
but a turkey is an extremely strong bird, protective of its own area, does not get its in the way of other animals or other people's business. It does not steal from other birds or other animals. It finds its own food. And as you mentioned, it is very good to eat. And actually, if you've seen a turkey in full plumage, it is a quite handsome
time will
bird.
tell. You may still be right that it may have eventually, as things progress, we may look back and think, man, if only our country had the turkey as the national bird, then maybe we would treat each other differently. You may be onto something.
Well, I put out the idea that from my feeling, and hopefully others may agree, or they are free to disagree.
That is the freedom. We love it.
All right, so here's a question for you, Jason. Which city is known as the cradle of liberty? The cradle of liberty. Which city is known as the cradle of liberty?
Yeah, I'm gonna need some options. Yeah, because the only city stuck in my mind right now, I know is not it.
Okay, your options are Charleston, South Carolina, Boston, Massachusetts, Savannah, Georgia, Jamestown, Virginia.
Oh, the cradle
of liberty.
I'm gonna go with Jamestown.
Jamestown's a very good answer, very good guess, because it was first English settlement in the United States or in America. Dr. Franklin, correct answer is your birthplace, right?
It is. It is Boston. Not only was I born there, raised there, but Mr. John Adams is from just outside of Boston, and the firebrand of the Revolution, the other Adams, Samuel Adams. And we had the riders and message carriers, Paul Revere, Billy Dawes.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, this is part of what's also interesting about Dr. Franklin's life is we always associate him appropriately with Philadelphia because, he's, to me, just kind of the perfect embodiment of Philadelphia and all that it stands for. But he actually, grew up in and spent a long time in Boston before moving to Philadelphia. So, Boston's the cradle of liberty.
That good old Tea Party, man.
Yeah, there you go.
I should have guessed that.
That caused me much difficulty in London, I must say, but I think it was quite necessary.
All right. When you made your way to Philadelphia, there was a woman in Philadelphia who was or is widely credited with sewing the first flag for our country. Jason, do you want to give us her name?
It would be Elizabeth Betsy Ross, I believe. Yay!
That is correct. So, Dr. Franklin, did you have any significant interaction with Betsy Ross while you were there in Philadelphia?
I was aware of her. She was a very good upholsteress, but as far as much business dealings or not, well,
Yeah.
no, actually not.
Different social circles.
Yeah, it's just I think some of the other committee members may have had more exchange with her.
Okay. Yeah. So when we think here at the James Madison Institute, when we think of Philadelphia and great women who came out of there, we think of Dolly, then Dolly Payne, who became, of course, Dolly Madison, but she was a Philadelphia woman before being introduced by the notorious Aaron Burr to James Madison. So Aaron Burr did at least do one thing well, one thing right, because he gave us the first, I can't say first power couple, because certainly George and Mary Washington, and for that matter, John and Abigail Adams were both impressive in their own right. But at any rate, Dolly Madison was another Philadelphia woman. Very good.
I'm not doing terrible. I got some of these. Oh.
And I think more of my own Deborah Reed, who later became Deborah Franklin.
Yeah.
Although she stayed at home, but she guarded our house during some of the riots and provided quite well for the family, especially when I was in England.
That's awesome. That's great. I think sometimes we have, we do see, because their names aren't always pinned right next to the big figure names, we often don't hear a lot of the stories about the women who were so pivotal during those times. And a lot of times, like you said, when the men would go off to do different aspects of the job that sent you overseas, those women would be left behind to carry on those burdens, and formidably so. And we're thankful. We're very thankful for the roles that they played as well. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's one woman who was credited with joining in the Revolutionary War and firing off cannons, not to wake people up, but to beat the British. Do you know her name, Jason?
No, but I hope it's something wild. The only one that I can think of is, and I don't know that she wasn't firing cannons to my knowledge. The only woman that I can think of off the top of my head is Florence Nightingale. But this is not. This doesn't seem like it would have fit her.
No, this was a woman by the name of
All
Molly
right.
Pitcher. Molly Pitcher was the woman who joined, and as I recall, kind of joined the battle at one point and helped fire off some cannons and stuff. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ben.
I'm sorry. What I had heard after returning to the United States was that Molly Pitcher was a common name for some of the camp followers that would bring water to the soldiers.
Yes. Well, she was a woman who. Here's the way the question reads: it's what is the legendary nickname given to a woman who carried water to soldiers during battle and perhaps even fired a cannon? And so Molly Pitcher is the correct answer. But what you're suggesting is she may have been pulling a Ben Franklin there and was called by something other than her real name. This was more of a nickname. Yeah.
From what I understand is several, more than just a few, but many women disguise themselves as men to be able to fight alongside the soldiers during the late unpleasantries.
The late unpleasantries. Yeah, no, Deborah Sampson is the name of one who did just as you described. So yeah, there are folks like this that we can learn
Yeah.
about and should learn about in American history, who contributed as women to the revolutionary fight. All right, so here's a good question. Which Virginia patriot is famous for declaring "Give me liberty" or "Give
Oh,
me
I love
death"?
this. So I hope I don't get it wrong with some sort of like brain fog, but Patrick Henry. Yes, sir.
Patrick
Yeah,
Henry is
powerful
correct.
words.
Yeah, and is the namesake now for a college in Northern Virginia that at least started out, I think, almost exclusively as a college for homeschoolers. May get some other students now, I don't know, but is still a largely homeschool population for college kids. Mike Ferris, who started
Oh.
Homeschool Legal Defense, was also involved in the launching of
Cool.
Patrick Henry College. So did you have much interaction? He was a Virginian, you were a Philadelphian. Did you have much interaction with Patrick Henry, Ben?
No, when he might have been at the conventions, the congressional convention in Philadelphia. I was in France, but I heard of him as quite the orator.
Yeah, was very instrumental back, in getting kind of rallying Virginians to fight and to join the cause and all of that. Was later not so sure about the Constitution, along with George Mason and some others, and was one of the kind of leading anti-federalists. And so the Bill of Rights that Madison had a role in adding to the Constitution was added largely to kind of satisfy some of the concerns that Patrick Henry and George Mason and some of the anti-federalists had at the time. All right, so here's another one for you, Jason. Which author's pamphlet, Common Sense, helped persuade many undecided colonists to support independence? Was this the work of Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Paine, or John Adams?
I believe Thomas Paine, and I'm thankful that you gave me multiple choice because I felt like it was on the tip of my lips, but I couldn't draw his name out. Thank
Thomas
you.
Paine is correct.
Yeah, and I will say, Mr. Paine approached me in Paris as to what he should do. He was an upholsterer, but had failed in that business. But I looked at some of his writings, and I suggested that he go to at that time, the colonies, and put his hand to his words on paper.
Interesting.
And, I think it was a good recommendation.
Yeah, no, I think we benefited greatly from you giving him that advice. So that is.
Well, so this is one of the things that's really interesting again about Dr. Franklin's life is that we know of him as a writer because he pens, all those pithy sayings like "a penny saved is a penny earned," and puts them in Poor Richard's Almanac. Wrote the best-selling book, The Way to Wealth, but was also kind of on the publishing side as well as a businessman. I mean, really, in many ways, you thought of yourself, did you not, Dr. Franklin, as kind of a printer, publisher, newspaper man first and foremost. Is that fair?
Yes, very much so. In fact, as different men came to me to be apprenticed and they learned the trade and became masters of their own right, I would assist them in setting up their own print shops, different cities throughout the colonies, with the understanding that their paper, their print, their ink, even all their supplies, they would purchase from me. And because of the fact that I helped finance and get them started, a portion of their profits would come back to me as well.
Founding father Walmart.
Well, I'm not familiar with Walmart, but
I love it.
But it does seem like a way of allowing well-trained businessmen to spread throughout the colonies and now the states.
Well, and I guess what all of this serves to illustrate is just why a Thomas Paine, upon meeting you, would be kind of telling you about his ideas, and you be telling him, "Hey, why don't you go and write those down and get them published?" Because you're in that business, you can kind of see good content when you learn of it. And so not only were you creating content, but you were also then helping others who had good content.
So I have one coming from our comments section, and so we'll wrap up with this one because we're running toward time.
Okay.
Which musical instrument did Benjamin Franklin invent?
It was my favorite instrument, the glass harmonica. And I came up with the idea of it. I've watched street musicians having glasses of water, and they would rub the rims, and because due to the level of the water, they would be able to make different music. I took that idea, and I had different size bowls placed on a spindle, and allowed me to turn those with my foot, a bowl of water, and I would dip my fingers in the water, and then my fingers on the rims of these rotating bowls, and the bowls were in different sizes, and hence made different musical notes. In fact, that youngster from Vienna, Mozart, actually penned a piece or two based on my harmonica.
That's amazing. I want to say thank you to the both of you for coming out, because especially this last, thank you for that question as well, because it's illustrative of, I think, where we are. And while we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of our great country, I think we've also have to realize we're a far afield down the road. And there's some good things about that. And there are some things that we need to be more watchful for. And I think that empowering families is the key to that. And I think that home education is probably the best way to do that. You get the freedom to let your kids be weird in ways like Benjamin Franklin was weird. Where are the people?
Now, sir, be careful.
No, with much love and respect. With much love and respect. But where are the children who are sitting around tying things to their toes and watching them wiggle as they orchestrate something else that spins, all the things that we tell our children to not do at the dinner table, Benjamin Franklin would do and invent something out of. And I think that that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing, and it's so needed in our society that we embrace those kinds of things, which you don't get by having children pack into rooms, sit in rows, raise their hands, walk in lines. They need the freedom. They need the chaos in order for them to make order out of the chaos and see what they have to offer to the world. And parents, harness that. Do your best. Do your due diligence. Harness that. Be with them in that journey and see what they can become, whether it's learning French from reading obituaries or, building an harmonica out of glass bowls. Let them be, let them experiment. And there's no better argument for the liberty that's needed in the scholarship program either. When people say, oh, of what educational benefit is this kayak or is that thing over there? Yeah, a great educational benefit. Stop being so stodgy and linear in your thinking and let the children explore the world and educate themselves with their own curiosity. That's quintessential to the fabric and the future of our great country. It's been great for 250 years. Let's keep it that way. But in order to do that, we have to let children be children. Parents need to step up and be parents and lead the way. And they don't belong to Big Brother, government, or state, or community. They belong to you, the parent. And you can do this. We love you all. We thank you all for the support. I normally give Brenda the last word. So, Bill, I'm going to give you second to last word. And Mr. Franklin, if there's anything you'd like to say, preparing thoughts, just to tell home education families to inspire them, or anything you'd like to say for the record. Also, if you want to come out of character and introduce yourself, you're welcome to do that as well. Because
I'll just, if Yeah, I'll say real quickly, thanks for, doing this
Absolutely.
and allowing us to be a part of it. And then to the folks watching, look for us at a upcoming convention near you, because we are taking the quiz game on the road. We'll be at several conventions over the next few months. And then, like you say, hope to have something that we can then distribute to co-ops and other things like that after the summer celebration is over.
Thank you for putting that shout out, because I had forgotten to mention that, and that's so key. Mr. Franklin.
One thing, jumping ahead a few years from my time, dealing with the Constitution, and there were many, many strong arguments of all the different parts of the Constitution. But one of the stories that I gave to the delegates was that of a joiner, a cabinet maker or a furniture maker, taking two pieces of wood, putting them together, and it would not fit. But he would shave a little from one, shave a little from the other, until they did come together and form a nice, smooth table. Our delegates in Congress, even in everyday life between people, we have to be able to compromise, give a little, take a little, and things will be much more civil, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I have one request for something for you to tell us a little bit about that you experienced, and something that I believe that you noticed. It was a chair. There was a specific chair, and there was something on the chair, and it's a great message, I think, for us to leave off with today. Tell us what you thought. Tell us what you saw.
This was during the Constitutional Convention. General Washington, His Excellency, was leading and directing the delegations and the planning. But the chair that he was sitting on the dais, I looked at it, and carved into the back was an image of a sun. And over the time that we kept meeting, I kept wondering, was this a rising sun or a setting sun? And as the different delegates came together and we formulated our Constitution, I realized that I was seeing the beginning of a rising sun, a new nation that had never been seen on the face of the earth.
And the sun shines bright over the free state of Florida, and parents, you are free to educate your children with your own values and standards as you see fit. Thank you, gentlemen, both for being with us today. And with that, I'm going to take us out. We'll say thank you again to our top sponsors, FPEA, our Arete and Fisher Precious Metals and TBHC Group. And I would like to say another special thank you to our parents of the free state of Florida for supporting the work that we do at the Home Education Foundation and our nonprofit, HEF Connect. And without further ado, roll that music and take us out.